Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Sherard Show. I'm your host, Sherard. Hope you're having a wonderful Wednesday, ladies and gentlemen. It's beautiful and sunny here in Los Angeles. But even more than that, we have a wonderful young lady who's an author on the show, first time on the show. She wrote a very, very interesting book we're going to be talking about momentarily on the show. The lovely Jennifer Silva Redmond, first time on the show. But before we get to Jennifer, the Sherard Show is brought to you by the Pure Essence Television Network, where you can see some of the greatest interviews of your life. Now trending: Billy D. Williams, The Temptations, Les Brown, Joe Montega, Melissa Manchester, and so many more. Just click on Pure Essence Television, subscribe on YouTube, and you can see the greatest episodes of your life. This broadcast is also brought to you by iHeartRadio. If you missed this on television, you can also listen to it on iHeartRadio. And lastly, it's brought to you by my limited edition Rah shoe collection. Every $1 goes to the fight for the cure for lupus. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a wonderful young lady who has a brilliant book that's out. She's currently trending and on the bestseller list. This wonderful young lady has written a book called Honeymoon at Sea. And she's the first time on the Sherard Show. She's so eager to talk about it. The lovely Jennifer Silva Redmond. Welcome to the Sherard Show, young lady. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be in the company of people like Billy D and Melissa Manchester. That'll get my head big.
It's an honor having you on, young lady. You've written a book that is most recommended. Now, tell us a little bit about the book.
Sure. So it's a memoir of a wild year that happened in my life when I was 28 years old. My husband and I had just gotten married, and we decided to have our honeymoon on his sailboat down in Baja California. Now, most people have heard of Cabo San Lucas. So Cabo San Lucas is at the far end of that long peninsula. So we sailed down around Cabo and up into the Sea of Cortez, which is that Gulf of California or Sea of Cortez. And we sailed there for many months. And I knew nothing about sailing when we left. And by the end of that months, which turned into almost a year, I was a sailor and couldn't think, I didn't want to do anything else.
Interesting. Now, you said 1989 was 36 years ago, and you all been married ever since. Now, you actually currently live on a boat now. Is that correct?
Yes, we spent that first year on Watchfire, which we owned the little 26-foot boat that we took all those travels on. Ended up going through the Panama Canal into Florida, and traveled quite a bit on that for 15 years. And then this boat that we're currently on is also called Watchfire because we're just sentimental that way, and it is a 35-foot sailboat. So yeah, so we got the time behind me, you can see.
Yeah, I'm seeing the time, and then what's the one on the top?
The barometer. So the barometer is barometer's down, and that means it could be a storm, and it's actually blowing and windy outside because we're currently up in Port Washington. We live in Los Angeles, but the boat is currently up in Port Washington, so we're getting away for a quick week for spring break when my husband teaches school.
Very good. Now, for those who are watching and they want to purchase the book, what can they expect from the book reading? Is it a romance novel?
Well, in a sense, it is the ultimate romance novel because we had known each other for years before this. We'd actually met doing theater down in San Diego. And when we got on this boat, my husband called it a recipe for divorce because I knew nothing about sailing. And we took off on a 1,000-mile voyage. And there was seasickness, there was this, there was that, there were storms. It was a very rough introduction to a new way of living, but we fell in love more and more with each other. We also fell in love with Baja California, Mexico, which is just one of the most beautiful places in the world and just outside our door. And I also became a writer over the period of time that we were sailing. So my life just changed completely.
For those who are not on or don't get on boats too often, and they decide, you know what, I want to be like Jennifer, and I'm going to get on a boat with my significant other, and or my fiance, he's going to propose to me, etc. What can you tell them to let them know about being at sea?
Well, I would start by going to something like, let's say, a hotel. Spend the weekend and don't leave that room. See how well you get along when it's just you and your loved one in a room about the size of a hotel room, because that's about the size of most sailboats. I mean, in terms of the livable space. We, of course, there's the outside of the boat where you're out there sailing and like that, but most of the time you spend with each other in a very small space. So that's sort of the test you want to give each other, or maybe a long car trip, drive from LA up to, say, Portland, and see how well you get along in that trip. And then that'll be a good indication of how much you'll get along very well on a small sailboat.
So Jennifer, if you can't get along in a boat, then that means that it might be a risk of you all throwing somebody over the sea. So you got to make sure you can get along on that boat.
You don't want to leave the dock until you've worked out that relationship.
Very good. Now, it's interesting because Jennifer, there's a song I love called Brandy from Looking Glass, and it talks about a man
Yes.
who loves being out at sea. And a lady is in love with him, but he's in love with his job and being out on the sea more
Yes.
so than her. This is what it kind of reminds me of. Does it remind you of that as well?
Well, there was a point at which I said to Russell, "What would you do if you could do anything?" And we were just a couple months from our wedding, and he said, "Oh, you and I would get on my boat and go sailing." And so I probably should have known at that point that what came first was not necessarily first, but in a dead tie with me was the boat. So, it worked out okay. He loves the ocean, but luckily so do I. So we've had a good 36 years of sailing since then.
It's very interesting because a lot of people go on cruises and
Mm.
they love the cruise, but it's an experience as well because a lot of times you're out there in the water for 7 days, and even though there's a gym, there's playing basketball, there's entertainment and things like that. A lot of times they say when you stand out there at night, it is so pitch black it can do something to you. Is that a true statement?
It absolutely is. And the very first time I went overnight on the boat, in other words, where I was on a night watch, because on watches on a small boat, somebody always has to be awake. So you don't just both get to go below and go to sleep. So, like your cruise ship, I was out there by myself on deck looking around in this pitch black with stars, of course, and thinking like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen if? What happens if the boat hits a rock? What happens if a whale hits the ship? What happens if a storm comes up? All these things that I worried about. But then, like many people, I realized, I should just appreciate where I am and trust that everything is going to work out. And of course it did. And so, I was able to keep myself from panicking and I grew to love it,
Very,
so.
very good. Now, for those who just joined us, we're talking to the lovely Jennifer Silva Redmond, the author, and a very incredible read that is a must read, Honeymoon at Sea. Definitely pick it up. We're going to get where you can purchase the book as well, and then maybe even an autographed copy as well. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to challenge Jennifer, in terms of her aptitude on music as well as being out on the sea. I'm Sherard. We'll be right back right after this.
If you served in the Marine Corps, by now you know about the contaminated water problem at Camp Lejeune. If you were stationed or worked at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1987, you probably have a lot of questions. We have some answers. You could be entitled to compensation. Billions of dollars are being allocated to pay for damages to anyone stationed at Camp Lejeune during that time. Unfortunately, it appears that officials may have known the contaminated water problem existed and did little to protect their men. The Semper Fi code was not honored. If you or someone in your family has developed a serious illness, including various forms of cancer, call this Camp Lejeune legal support line right now. You can't turn back the clock and change what happened, but you can certainly call right now and learn your rights as a Marine. Here's the number.
Call 855-815-9786. That's 855-815-9786. Again, 855-815-9786.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Sherard Show. I'm your host, Sherard, for our special Wednesday conversation with the lovely author Jennifer Silva Redmond on the Sherard Show, talking about her book, Her Life at Sea. as well as what's coming up as well. Jennifer, a lot of times you hear people, being out at sea, but most of the time you hear them being sailors and or living in the Navy or so. But not often regular civilians decide, I want to just live on a boat and move around like this. But what is the romantic side of living out on sea?
Oh, well, the romance never stops. And I guess the honeymoon hasn't ended, so I guess we both really love traveling. My husband is a teacher and he's also a writer, and he's also an artist. So everywhere we've gone, he's done paintings of the surroundings. So that's been very romantic. I think there's just something romantic, even if you just go down to, say, Marina del Rey and watch at sunset when a boat is heading out. You get that sense of they could be going anywhere. They could be going to the South Pacific. They might just be going out to Catalina. But there's something romantic about just setting off into the ocean on a small boat. To me, it's one of the ultimate romantic in that sense of adventurous romantic. And then, of course, there's the being on the boat together. And on those nights out where it's starlit and moonlit, and it's very wonderfully romantic.
Now, when you're out there on the sea like that, the moon, you really need the moon. The light of the moon really helps, right?
Yes, if you can, you always try and plan. If you're going overnight, you want to plan to where you have a full moon or at least very close to full, because that's especially if you're offshore. Most of the coast of California is so brightly lit now that we don't have to worry too much when we're in close to shore. But when you're out further, once you get, a few miles offshore, it does get pretty dark. But when we were down in Baja, California, of course, the light there's nowhere so much as that ambient light of bright lights like Los Angeles and California have. So you could really get some dark skies and bright ocean, bright stars and constellations, which was pretty wonderful.
Very good. Now, they're asking us right now, I've said we're going to get to it and we're going to get to your questions now, but they want to know, where can they purchase your book?
Well, the book is available through a nationwide distribution. So at any Barnes & Noble or your local bookstore, you can ask for Honeymoon at Sea and they can order it for you. If you want to get an ebook, you can get a Kindle book on Amazon. Of course, you can also buy a paperback on Amazon if you prefer to do that. The book is pretty much available anywhere. It's also available from Sunbelt Books, which is Sunbelt Publications, sunbeltbooks.com. They carry my book as well. And so pretty much anywhere. Just ask for Honeymoon at Sea.
Amazon as well, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Very good. Now, you ready for some questions? The audience are lining up to take some questions from you as well. We only have time for 3 because Jennifer's a very busy lady. I've got to sail out in a moment anyway. I really appreciate that. This one is from Danny. This is from Danny Garcia. He's all the way in Albuquerque, New Mexico. His question is, he's been sailing for many years, and he's wonderful that first time Sherard ever had someone who's sails on the show. Now, how did you know that, Danny? His question is, can you explain coordinates to him?
Oh, wow. So coordinates basically is the latitude and longitude of your boat. So let's say, for example, off of San Diego, or you would be at the degrees of longitude is roughly, let's say, 117 degrees of longitude. So longitude are the long lines of navigation that go from north to south. So they go from the North Pole to the South Pole. And then the equator, most people are familiar with, are the lines of latitude. So they start 0 at the equator and go up. So San Diego is, I don't know, 32 degrees latitude or something like that. And so you would say 117 degrees longitude by 32 degrees latitude. So that would be your coordinates. And coordinates will show you anywhere on the globe. Somebody can say, I'm at 40 degrees longitude and 130 something degrees latitude, and there they'll be. So it's kind of an amazing system. It works.
Good. Thank you, Danny. And thank you, Jennifer, that we really learned something. I didn't know that. That's very good. Really appreciate that. Next one is from Malima. This is from Malima, and she's from Salt Lake City, Utah. She said she wants to grab the book right away, and where can she get an autographed copy? And also, she wants to know what's the secret to 36 years of marriage. Okay.
Oh, that's a big question. Well, you can get the book immediately from Amazon.com or bookshop.com, both of those. I don't, unfortunately, have autograph copies available online, so I'm sorry about that. But you can follow me at Honeymoon at Sea at Substack, which is a newsletter and blog and posting type of all kinds of big celebrities like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and oh, just all kinds of people that are brilliant minds in me, not so brilliant, are on Substack. So you can look at Substack and find Honeymoon at Sea and follow around with my travels. As to what, oh my gosh, I think it's pure luck to find somebody that you can be still more and more in love with every day. So I think one of the things that has saved our marriage is, both of us have learned to, is this a hill that I want to die on? I mean, sometimes somebody, says something and you think, oh, do I want to have an argument about this? And you can just sometimes move on. Another thing is my husband owns noise canceling headphones, which I think is very helpful, whenever I'm on talking to my friends or my writers groups or an interview like this. He'd rather listen to it when it's live, so he doesn't listen to it. In the meantime, he's got his noise canceling headphones on, so that's a marriage saver too.
Very good. We appreciate that, Malima. We have time for one more question. This is from Keisha Walker. She's in Macon, Georgia. She says it's wonderful when Sherrard has authors on the show. She said she wanted to purchase your book as well. And her question is, what do you all do for your anniversary? Do you spin it out on sea or do you stay local? Good question.
That's a good question. We have done both. Our anniversary falls at the end of May, which is usually very close to Memorial Day. So on the year we were married, it actually fell on Memorial Day weekend. And I believe it's going to be very close to Memorial Day weekend this year. So we may, in fact, be able to get out and about. We'll probably won't be on our boat, but we might be. Our nephew has a boat, so, we might go sailing. There's some possibilities there. But we've also just, spent the weekend in Morro Bay or somewhere wonderful like that. And, we don't have to be on the boat to celebrate it. But this year, I'm going to be 64, like the Beatles sang about, so that same weekend. So we'll see if he'll still need me and feed me, as the Beatles would say, when I'm 64.
Very good. Well, happy early birthday to you as well. Now, Jennifer, we appreciate all the questions from all the individuals. We do not have time to get to them all. Jennifer, where can they reach out to you for book orders as well as more questions?
Well, like I say, I have a newsletter at Substack. So if you just punch in substack.com, and then you can punch in the search bar Honeymoon at Sea, just like the name of my book. And you'll find me and you can sign up. It's free. And then you'll get once a week a little story about what I'm doing this week or different things about my book or our travels. This summer, we're going to be going up to Canada. So you can follow along and see that. I'm also on Facebook. I'm the only Jennifer Silva Redmond on Facebook still. And I'm at J Silva Redmond at all the other places like TikTok and Instagram. So you can follow me any of those places, and I hope you will.
Very good. Well, we appreciate all of y'all reaching out. Jennifer, we appreciate you stopping by on the show. Make sure you pick up her book. I'm definitely going to do a book review on it once I get my hands on it and be able to tell you how much I love the book as well. Jennifer, do you have any final thoughts?
Well, I just feel so lucky. It's obviously taken me a while to write this book because I'm also a book editor. So I've been busy working on other people's books. But the book just came out last year, and I've just been thrilled at how many people have enjoyed it, how many people have told me that it opened their eyes to a different way of living, or that they've just enjoyed the honeymoon voyage. So I hope you will enjoy that voyage as well. And I sure appreciate you having me on.
It's an honor having you on the show as well. Hope you come back again real soon. Be safe out there. Happy anniversary to you. For the lovely Jennifer Silva and all of those who are loving the Sherrard Show, make sure you subscribe to it. The link is right there at the bottom of your monitor. And also stay tuned on the next episode of the Sherrard Show. We have the man himself, Mr. David Letterman, stopping by the show to talk about what's life like after TV. So we're going to talk to David Letterman about that. Make sure you subscribe. And always remember, ladies and gentlemen, if you ever want to soar with the Eagles, stop hanging around turkeys. I'm Sherrard, and we'll see you next time. Bye now.